Hey Michelle, so I'm going to go through your Trainer Eyes profile and show you a few things. And this is a little bit more helpful doing a voiceover module video so you can hear things a little bit more clearly and get a feel for where we're at and what we're doing. So this is the front page where it says your calories and macros. So I have you at 1,600 calories, 124 grams of protein, 168 grams of carbs, and 48 grams of fats. So the main thing you want to focus on is always hitting your protein every day. Always hitting that protein mark no matter what. That's the number one thing you want to focus on. And then once you learn how to hit that, then you can focus on the other two macros falling into place. So let's look at one of your logs from MFP that is synced over. So we're going to go to the calendar and then let's look at Wednesday. So let's look at yesterday. So you ate about 1,200 calories. I'm going to round up and say 1,200 calories because sometimes we're a little bit off on our actual portions that we ate. So I always like to round up a little bit. You always want to assume that you ate a little bit more just to be a little bit more accurate. So 1,200 out of 1,600 calories, and of those calories breaks down your carbs, fats, and proteins. So we'll look right here, and you had, so you had almost 100 grams of protein. That's really good, actually. So you could have had about one to two more protein servings, and you always want to assume that a protein serving is about 15 to 20 grams of protein, 15 to 25 grams of protein on average, depending on what it is, whether it's a yogurt or a piece of chicken. Everything varies a little bit with the actual protein amount, but on average, one serving is about 15 to 25 grams of protein. And I did mention that in one of the macro documents on the last page. It will go over those types of details. Okay, so you were at 31 out of 48 grams of fats, and that's actually really good. You had a little bit remaining to consume, and then you had 107 out of 168 grams of carbs. So with looking at what you had remaining, you had about two servings of carbs and about 2 servings of proteins. So you're going to get the rest of your fats. You're going to get fats out of your proteins and carbs because some proteins have fats in them and some carbs have fats in them. So you're automatically going to assume that you're going to get some fats out of your proteins and carbs. So say you had, so you have 2 servings of carbs and about maybe 1 to 2 servings of proteins left. If you had a 3-ounce piece of steak with a cup of rice, you would basically hit your macros. You would get the carbs that you need from the rice or pasta, doesn't matter. And then you would have the proteins and fats from the steak that you ate. And keep in mind portion size. You're going to want to do about 3 to 4 ounces. Anything bigger than that, you're going to have more calories, more protein, and more fats. And more protein's fine, but you're going to want to notice and keep track of where you're placing your fats. So a bigger portion of that steak is going to give you a bigger quantity of fats. So that's why you want to stick to about 3 to 4 ounces with that piece of steak. So that's just an example of what you could have added in your day to hit your macros. So like I said, you always want to initially lead and learn by hitting your protein, and then sort of go from there with how to hit your fats and carbs. And then you will know how to navigate your day that much better. And the more that you log, the more that you can learn this. So you can also look at your exact foods that you ate, and you can see what were higher in fats and where you placed a lot of your dense carbs. So you always want to think in your head, where am I placing my fats? Or am I eating too many high-fat proteins? Am I eating too many high-fat carbs? Am I eating too many or too big of a portion sizes of actual fat-dense foods like oils, butters, nuts, avocado, etc.? So the number one thing that people always do is they go over their fats and they don't hit their protein mark. So they're under their protein mark. You actually don't seem to have a problem with going over your fats. And you actually do a really good job of hitting your protein. So I would say you just need to add in a little bit more calories on it. Typically, that's on average where you're at. And that's a good problem, because a lot of people overeat and they have to learn how to reportion and figure out where they're placing too many of their fats and do better portions or change the foods out to a leaner options. So let me look at another day real quick and then we'll wrap it up. Hoping this helps a lot more with me speaking about what you've done with your MFP logs. Okay, let's go over Sunday. Okay, so you were about 1,300 out of 1,600 calories. And within that, you did really good on your protein, really good. You were very close to everything, actually. So you could have added in a protein serving and a carb serving, and you would have been good. So you could have had maybe a piece of chicken with a half cup of pasta. You would have been great. You would have hit your calories. You could have had a slice of whole grain toast with some tuna on top, mixed with some Miracle Whip, or actually a good thing to add to tuna as a base is plain Greek yogurt with some seasonings, and it's almost the same as like mayo, except it has way less fat. So you could have had tuna on top of a whole grain piece of toast and hit your macros perfectly. So that's really awesome. Let's take a look at your foods real quick. Awesome. Okay. So that's where I will wrap it up with doing 2 MFP log macro assessments. And the only thing, let's see what I would recommend. So say you ate something, say you went way over your carbs. And typically when people do that, they ate a lot of extra fats too, because the emptier the carb is, the higher fats they are, like chips or ice cream or chocolate. You're going to have the high fats and carb factor because they're more of an empty carb. So that's why complex carbs are better to aim at because they're more nutrient dense and low fat. So say you had a ton of chips. Say you had like 2 bags of chips and it gave you a higher it gave you carbs, but say the main thing you want to focus on is how it gave you a large quantity of fats in your day. So that's where you placed a lot of your fats, and it didn't give you a lot left for the remainder of your day. Therefore, you went over. And this is just an example. This isn't what you did. But say, for instance, you did that. And what you could have done is maybe had a smaller portion of the chips, so you know that you're having a smaller portion of the fats, so that you could disperse them through the rest of the day better and not go over your fats by the time the end of the day came. So sometimes it really does boil down to the portion size and making a smaller portion, and then you'll be good at the end of the day. So overall, you do a great job. So let's just work on hitting a little bit more calories, and typically you just need to add in like 1 more carb serving and 1 more protein on average. So let's focus on that. Have a good day.